Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 177, titled Back to Devils Hockey, as we have a dancing Nick Villano, Pucks and Pitchforks blog editor-in-chief. I'm your host, Sam Wu, as we're streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. We got a great podcast for you today. We're going to talk a little analytics with CJ Turtoro. Yes, he'll be on in the primetime radio studios shortly. Carlos Pina on YouTube Live says, so close to hockey returning. People filing in on the Facebook Live. Nick, how are you, my friend? You're somewhere down right now.
Yeah, it's a happy Devils Wednesday. I'm excited. I'm pumped. I'm ready for the season to start. I'm ready for. Actually, I'm not, because I got like a million preview things I got to write. So I'm not ready for the season to start. I need actually more time to write this stuff. Yeah, we're just getting settled in New Jersey. So there has been less writing, but there's a lot to talk about. And I've been on this podcast. We've been talking a lot. One thing we got to talk about, nationally televised games. Devils have 4 on the major networks. They're on ESPN for the first time in God knows how long. And they said it on Twitter. I don't remember it off the top of my head. And they got 2 on TNT. So at least they're getting some nationally televised games. And then what do they have? What do they have? 4 or 5 ESPN Plus only games?
You there, Nick?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, what do they have? 4 or 5 ESPN Plus only games? I can't remember.
I didn't realize you were asking me the question.
Yeah,
I thought you were on a monologue, and I didn't want to interrupt. So
no,
folks,
you're fine. Anyway, the point is, they're all on the road. Every single one. Is that right? Did I see that right? Every single one.
Yeah,
is on the road. Every single game on the road. Now, what did we see so much of last year on these nationally televised programs, Sam, that might make these networks want to put the Devils on the road for their next broadcast?
Maybe they're just jealous that our red line, which has the New Jersey state map outline on it, maybe it was just, it looked too good.
Is that what you're going with?
Maybe, I have no idea, Nick. I mean, I'm still mad about this whole Comcast MSG Networks year 2 standoff. And then when you look at this, maybe God bless ESPN and TNT, because at least Devils fans that are, that child, in the middle of that divorce, I don't know. It's just they still haven't figured that part out. But going to the ESPN all on the road, you know what this means, Nick? Maybe they're predicting, we're going to have a lot of Devils home games in the playoffs once they get there. So I'm going with that. More positive, unrealistic.
Positive outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so, Sam. I don't think that's what's happening, actually. Are
they saying that our crowds suck?
No, I don't think that's it either. Something darker. Oh.
You think those hideous Jersey? I'd rather have you take credit for that tweet.
Yes, I did write this on Twitter. Do I actually think that the Jersey is why that they're not putting them on these games? Yes! Why would you? Oh, that jersey's so terrible. There are so many people, Sam, that are now backtracking and be like, oh, we love the jersey. We always loved the jersey. No, you didn't. You hated the jersey because the jersey stinks. There's too many stripes. The logo doesn't make any sense. The best logo in sports is the New Jersey Devils logo. And you took it off the jersey entirely. I am going to die on this hill. The jersey is terrible. I do not want to own one. And if you notice, when they give away these jerseys, Sam, to these celebrities, to these concerts,
VMAs,
wear the jersey. Do you want to?
And they're pushing it so hard. It's almost like why?
Because they can't sell them out. They sell plenty of the original Reds, but they need all the publicity they can get on the jersey because nobody wants to buy it. Well, some people want to buy it. I see some people with the jersey. You ain't going to see me with it. You ain't going to see it on ESPN.
There's odd people like your parent that likes the jersey. I mean, Scotty hates it. Scotty refuses to even watch the game when they're wearing the jersey. It has to go to Matt and Chico as kind of, the backup. Kind of the backup. And I'll tell you, I'm not going to bash people for liking the jersey. If you like the jersey, that's fine. It's just, to me, you take the logo off, that's a game changer for me. Paying homage to a defunct team, 60 years ago. Okay. All right. If that's your thing, that's fine. Yeah. But again, we're still talking about that. Also, Devils are talking to several candidates for the Devils PA announcer position as well. Heard that through the grapevine. I'm not going to reveal sources, but they are, and it's obvious. Someone's going to fill that position.
Someone's got to do it.
You have to do it. Yeah.
They didn't ask me, Stan. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So, but our next guest is in the green room right now.
Oh, he's here.
Yeah, he's here right now, on time. Ahead of schedule, You got to just give a hand for that.
Just
thank you.
Punctuality is huge.
Yes.
That's what, before we get him on, we got to give it up for these analytical guys. We've had Micah McCurdy. We've had Josh Youngren from Evolving Wild. We've had Jay Fresh on. Punctuality is key with these guys. They're always on time, Sam. They are usually early, and you love that. You love the punctuality from the analytics community. Bring CJ on. Bring him on the Let's Go Devils podcast. It's a first.
Yes,
first. CJ.
Coming to you live from the Primetime Radio studio, CJ Turtoro, analytics expert covering the Devils. You can find him on Twitter at CJT Devil. CJ, welcome to the podcast for the first time.
CJ, you're on mute.
No, I got it. Sorry.
Oh, CJ, we're on mute. I'm sorry. Try again.
Can you hear me now? Are we good?
I got you. Yeah, I heard the laugh.
All right, sweet. Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
That was my bad, CJ. It was a mix minus issue, and I overplayed my hand here.
He over minus the mix, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Now the brownies are ruined. So what you got? Tell us about your wall. What's going on behind you on the wall?
So that's a gallery wall that was so this is so I moved into this apartment about 2 years ago, and we wanted to figure out a cheap way to take up a lot of space on the wall. So my girlfriend, now fiance, decided to do this gallery wall, but she didn't understand the amount of math that would actually take. So if you saw the process that it took to get this to actually work, right there, listen, there's painter's tape on the ground. There was multiple measuring tapes. There was a laser level, right? It's really hard process to get it to look even as close to symmetrical as it is right now, which it's not. If you took
awesome.
a ruler to it, you'd notice some
Luckily,
problems.
She's marrying a math guy. I heard you're a math guy. I heard you like
Yes,
numbers.
I am indeed a math guy.
So let's talk about math. And I want to talk about the math of the Jesper Bratt contract. 1 year, under $6 million. The average annual value, obviously, you're thrilled with, but it's for 1 year. There's two camps here. There's one that you blew it. You could have got him for 6.5, 7, yada, yada, yada. There's all these people, especially seeing the Tim Stützle contract today, seeing all these other contracts getting signed for big money. And then there's the other camp saying you had a guy on his 4th year in the NHL, more than double his previous career high. Where are you on this? Are you okay with the 1-year contract and making him show it again, knowing that it could be a $9 million contract next year? Or do you think that the Devils lost out on an opportunity to sign him now?
Well, I guess that would put in two different kind of answers there, because we have to separate the how you would criticize management for their handling of it versus the how do you project the player. So if we're criticizing management for it, it's kind of difficult just because we don't really know what those negotiations looked like. We don't really know the degree to which Jesper Bratt just wants to, pounce on the increase in the cap that we're expecting in the coming years. So there's a few factors that we don't really know about from Jesper Bratt's side of the thing. My operating assumption is that he probably could have been had for something like an 8x8 contract. If we wanted to give him a long-term deal, that would be an overpay for the market. But I still think it would end up being an underpay in terms of his actual value. So for the compartment of fans that say, well, this was a massive increase in points, it was a big 1-year jump. It really wasn't that huge of a jump when you look at the rate statistics. I think it looks really big when you look at something like just his ESPN year-end totals. But first of all, there was 2 pandemic-shortened years in there. Second of all, he was playing fewer minutes per game in those pandemic-shortened years. And he was still a hyper-efficient analytics darling that whole time. So if you had told an analytics person that he was going to get whatever it was, 18 plus minutes of top line duty alongside either Heischer or Hughes with PP1 time, we would have expected him to produce around the point total that he did. So that would be my 2 separate answers. You need to consider what they were actually dealing with in the negotiating room. My assumption, though, is that he probably could have been had for 8x8, and I would have given it to him.
So basically, in short, you think that they made a mistake. You think they should have just given him the number and here's the Jack Hughes contract, call it a day.
I would say, yeah. So I would say I think they made a mistake, but I can't say that I know it just because I don't know what it looked like in that room. So if my assumptions are correct, then yeah, they made a mistake and they should have extended him long term.
Okay. So we all know why you're here. Analytics, baby. Let's talk math.
All right.
And Brett is somebody who a lot of the math had a lot of the people who cover this team falling in love with Bratt in the first place. He always had those underlying numbers. You could kind of see this breakup coming, maybe not to this level, but you could see something going on there. Now, the Devils have a lot of interesting players on the roster right now. Is there anybody you're looking at to make a similar jump? Into maybe not as high as Bratt, or maybe you are thinking of somebody as high as Bratt. Are you thinking of somebody who's going to go from a decent player to a superstar, or maybe from a nothing to a decent player? Do you see a jump on this roster this year?
So the short answer would be no, we're not that lucky. I mean, Jesper Bratt is he's a really good, in my opinion, he's a really good, a top shelf, top line winger, right? He's like a top 30 winger in the NHL, probably higher, right? In my opinion, right? I'm probably higher on him than the average fan, certainly, but probably even than the average Devils fan. But that's how impressive his analytical profile is. And it's not like one of those, his eye test looks great too, right? He looks really impressive on the ice. This isn't like he just looks great on a spreadsheet. He dominates. When Jack wasn't on the ice, he was the only one doing anything instead, right? He had that level of, electricity when he was on the ice. So you're not going to get that big of that much of a slam dunk all the time. It's pretty rare. I would say that there's there's the players that have the production rates that you might see go up if they get a little bit more minutes. So those are younger guys like Sharangovich and Mercer. Their analytical numbers haven't really come up to match what they look like on the ice. To me and to, I think, other fans, I think everyone sees how, how feisty, how aggressive, and how smart Dawson Mercer is on the ice. His public analytics don't look good. I've heard from people with the private tracking data that he looks better on some of those. I'm not sure. I haven't seen it personally, so I don't know to what degree that's true, but I would certainly like it to be true. And Sharangovich has, I've talked about since he came up, I said he has an extremely unique release. It's really it's lethal, but it's also really fast. He can get it off from anywhere, and that makes him a natural complement to a guy like Jack Hughes, who can get you the puck from anywhere. So when you put those two skills together, you can have a totally benign looking play suddenly turn into a prime scoring opportunity. So I would say from a point production standpoint, I would have Sharangovich and Mercer as the two guys most likely to see that type of increase. In terms of analytical guys, it's a couple guys that probably are fighting for roster spots at the moment in Tatar and Andreas Janssen. So, okay. I mean, I don't know. They have those are guys with much better analytical profiles than I would say public opinions. They both have at least neutral, if not positive, impacts since they've been in New Jersey. So if those are guys that if their production is going to match what their on ice impacts are, you would expect regression upward from the two of them. But I think a lot of people are starting to wonder if that's just a statistical artifact for the two of them. It didn't look like that early in the season for Johnson, right? Like it looked like that line. What was that? Mercer, Janssen.
It was Mercer, Bratt, and Janssen or Johnson.
Yeah. So I think by the end of the year, we just kind of decided that Bratt was like a lot to credit for that because we saw what he did.
He's Superman.
The
rest
of the year. Exactly. Yeah. So, but I mean, I guess if there was an injury or something and one of those guys got moved up in the lineup, I would expect them to see some point production as well. If you're looking for the Hail Mary, who could be the next Bratt, the only guy that I would say that had efficiency in terms of analytics and production that you might hope could see that increase with time on ice would be Zetterlund. He had a really great end of the year. And if that were to continue, if that scaled on a true, top 9, top 6, whatever he was able to scratch his way into during camp, then that would be the closest thing to a Bratt-esque ascent that you could hope for.
So 2 quick points, just to kind of piggyback off you. I love the Tatar point. I'm actually going to write about this pretty soon because I think Tatar I think he's going to explode this year. I think he's going to be in the top 6 sometime in October. He might not start there just because of, Lindy Ruff probably has some previous dispositions about what happened last year. But I think sometime in October, he's going to get a chance in the top 6. I think he's going to stay there. I think he's a 60-point player. I think he's going to be somebody who the results are going to match the impact. And I really like Tatar this year. I wanted to ask you, and this is a little bit off the board, but you mentioned them. Is your top line Sharangovich, Hughes, Mercer, since those are the you kind of mentioned those 3 together? Is that what your top line is in your opinion? Or do you think I'm trying to figure out who I'm pairing with Jack Hughes? And that's really all unless I put Brad on that line or unless Alexander Holtz figures something out, that's all I'm landing on is Mercer, Hughes, Sharangovich. Do you see any other way?
I mean, are you asking what I think will happen, what I think should happen?
Both. Start with what you think will happen, and let me know if you think it's correct or not. And if it's not correct, let me know what you think should happen.
I mean, I guess it's all in the top 6, right? Because that's all that's how all of that needs to end up panning out, right? So I would say the immovable part there to me is, in my opinion, the Hughes Sharangovich pairing. I don't think it's because I think a lot of people still think that, Igor is only as good as Jack Hughes will make him, because he did have a hard time early in the year when Jack was injured. But in the back half when Jack was injured, and even in the middle where they weren't playing together, he was still good. So it's not a Sharangovich is only good with Hughes thing. It's just that, like I said before, their skill sets complement each other so well, in my opinion. Jack's ability to get people the puck from anywhere, and Yegor's ability to release the puck from anywhere are just such natural complements. And I do think Mercer kind of fits in well there as the guy who can get the puck in the first place because he's such a hawk, right? So, I would definitely say that I think that makes sense as a top line. The only thing that I think might end up factoring in there is I don't know if they feel that line is too soft. I like Mercer. Mercer is aggressive, but he's still smaller and younger. Yegor's bigger, but he plays a more finesse game, and Jack is Jack. He's right. He's not winning any points for physicality as good as he is at everything else.
Poke check, but that's because he's trying to, he's trying to get over.
Right, yeah. So I don't know if they might try to do something with a veteran there, like they could, or they could just try to put a little bit of the sandpaper on that line. They might try Zetterlund up there at some point. They might try Bastion up there if things go bad in the beginning. He was playing on a second line at one point last year. They might try Palat if they want something that they think is sustainable and scales for the year, because they know that he knows how to play those tough games, and he might be able to bail out the more finesse guys. So I think that they might be playing around with things. I think you'll see a lot of different looks in camp. But I think ultimately they do need to end up there. If for no other reason, then these are your best guys and they need to get the most minutes.
I've seen a lot of Jack Hughes hype. A lot of it. And a lot of people are really excited to see what he's going to do this year, which all of us should be. But a lot of the national guys are really on this Jack Hughes hype train. Would you say that's like the guy you're most excited to see as a fan? Or is there somebody else, like maybe you're looking at the numbers and like, I know a lot of the math guys, like you get like rooting interest in people because you want like the numbers to pan out. Is there any who are you rooting for this season? Who are you really excited to see? And yeah, what player are you most excited to see this season? Let's just keep it simple.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like just from watching, Jack Hughes is the most exciting player, right? So like I'm not gonna differ too much from the norm there. I don't think anyone else on the team has nearly as good a shot at like hitting 100 points or something, say. But in terms of who I'm rooting for, I was in that camp in the beginning of last season that was really staunchly advocating for people not to sour on Nico Hischier. So I would love if his point production could just match his 200-foot game. If he could put up like a 75, 80 point season while playing on both PP1 and PK1 and putting up like a 55% face off, just so that those like approachable statistics match his like more arcane and obscure statistics. I would love that, so that everyone else just, the meme in the analytics corner is to make fun of people that were calling Nico Hischier a 3C forever. I don't know if that includes present company at all.
No, I was fighting. I was behind you with my Jon Snow sword. Right. I was really ready to go, but you just didn't see me because we were working for different companies. I was just like hiding behind other Pucks and Pitchforks people. We were in like the subsection for all the other groups. Yeah, same circle. It was like the Venn diagram. Like we were. I was on this part. Exactly. Yeah, it's fine.
But Nico Hischier's in our overlap of the Venn diagram.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I'm certainly rooting for, and I'm rooting for Jesper Bratt, of course, to repeat, if not exceed, what he did last year. And probably from an analytics perspective, I would say Dougie Hamilton, right? I don't want analytics people to have been wrong about him the whole time.
I mean, here's the thing about Dougie Hamilton. And I wrote a lot about Dougie Hamilton in the beginning because there was not a lot of good things to write about. But Dougie Hamilton was legitimately a Norris Trophy level defenseman for like 2 months. And him and Ryan Graves were like a perfect pairing. And then he got hit in the face with the puck. And then at some point he broke his toe. So we remember what happened when Nico got hit in the face with the puck. He was not the same player, and he came back the next year and he was just fine. I don't know if it's the mask. I don't know if it's the swelling or the pain or, there's a lot of factors that go with getting hit in the face of the puck. It's not a fun time, and probably for the best that PK Subban's not on the team anymore. I love Subban, but he hit too many people in the face of the puck. Let's just be honest. Yeah, I think Dougie's going to bounce back, and I think he's going to have a really good season.
Also,
is there anybody you're worried about?
There's something to be said for the psychology of it too, right? Like I say this as someone who got hit in the face with a baseball when he was in when he was playing
that happened to me. I was terrible after that.
I broke my jaw, and it took me forever to get back in the batter's box and not like immediately cower away from the ball. So there's definitely things play in your brain, and you're definitely a little bit more hesitant. And in the NHL, a split second hesitation is the game, right? So
yeah.
I think him getting back to a level of comfort is going to be big, and I think he'll be the Dougie we were expecting him to be.
Well, I love to hear that. Is there somebody you're worried about? Is there somebody you think that's going to fall off a little bit?
I wouldn't say fall off too much, only because there's we've got a lot of youth. There's not a whole lot of people that I expect to get demonstrably worse at any time in the particularly near future. I think the recent additions are probably the ones most likely to do that. Like Palat is probably the one I'd be most worried about starting to see a decrease in his production. I guess I would be a little bit concerned from the analytical standpoint. I think that the analytics are wrong on Dawson Mercer. His like expected goal impacts are not particularly good at the moment. Combining what I've heard from private tracking companies with what he just looks like on the ice, I think that the models have not given him his due credit for the impacts that he had on the ice. I think it gave a lot of credit to, for instance, Jesper Bratt, and I think it gave a lot of credit to other line mates that he had over the course of the year that he probably deserved. But if he has another bad season of analytical impacts, like if he's getting outshot and outchanced again this year, that would be something that would concern me, especially because he looks so good, and that means that he would get way overpaid. But I'm not worried about it because I think he will do well. Like I do think those will come.
Now, I'm running out of time here, but I have to sneak this in. Are you at all worried about Damon Severson? On a contract year, likely pushed to the third line. Maybe they make a play on his offhand. There just seems to be a lot going against Damon Severson, who's probably the original Devils analytical darling. He's the guy that people have been in love with because of the analytics for so long, which I think is like what produces some of the hate against him, because it's like, analytics, he makes mistakes. But anyway, point being, do you see a regression in Damon Severson at all?
I mean, the only regression that I would see would come from opportunity, right? Like his counting stats might go down because I don't expect him to get PP1 time by design that much, right? Like that should be Dougie's spot. So I don't really know. And with the new talent that we've added on the blue line, I don't expect him to be hogging up whatever it was that he ended up with last year. Some like down the stretch, when Dougie was injured, he was getting like 24 minutes a night or something like ridiculous. That, right? And as much as I like him, he's not a 24-minute a night defenseman. So I mean, I don't think he's going to be falling off a cliff or anything anytime in the really, really near future. But I do think that it looks like the team's trying to prepare to move on from him with everything that they've done on that side, right? So I guess I'd be, if I'm someone who wants to hold on to Severson a while because I like what he's done in the last couple of years, then I'm worried because I think it's not looking like he's sticking around too much longer. But if you're just saying, am I worried about him this season? No, I think he's going to be good. Listen, every year people doubt him, and then every year he convinces the coaching staff that he's the number one defenseman on the team by year's end. So, if anything, that might happen again.
It might. You're not wrong. Last question. You can make it quick if you'd like. What is the outlook for the team, do you think? Did they finally hit the right notes to make it a playoff contender? I'm not even saying make the playoffs, but like in the 92 to 97 point range.
So as to not like throw past me under the bus, I'm just going to go ahead and say a definitive yes. I think they make the playoffs, right?
Okay.
That's not exactly what my analytical opinion would be, right? Like my understanding of the projections seems to be that they're that fringe, right? Like they're like an upper 80s point team. Which depending on when those 80 something points came, that could still be in the mix at the end, or it could very, very much not be. But I think that they're missing some of the absolute like just tornado of bad vibes that has been the last couple of years. I think if the team wins a couple of games early while they're healthy, and before Mackenzie Blackwood's first injury, right? I think that it's going to look like a totally different team, right? Every year, Mackenzie Blackwood gets injured. We have some other sort of injury, that has hurt development. Our special teams is composed of a bunch of guys that are young, are learning new systems, haven't had time to develop chemistry, which is essential to special teams. I think that all of those things, if we can get a little bit of momentum and stay healthy early in the season, it's just going to look like a totally different team. And it's not even going to look like the team that the analytics models are basing their data off of, because I think that all of that has made them descriptively what they have been in the past. So I think that assuming, it's I guess a big assumption, but assuming we can stay healthy early in the season, I think it looks like a totally different team.
Love to hear it. CJ, thank you so much. Your first appearance on the Let's Go Devils podcast at
Thanks for having me.
CJT Devil. I know you're not writing much anymore, but I'm sure you're still going to be on Twitter. It's hard to quit that dang app, isn't it?
No, yeah, it's addicting. I'm going to be there even if it becomes like illegal for me to be there.
We will get buried in the Elon Musk grave. I'm ready for it to happen. Yeah. Let's go. But CJ, anything else you want to plug?
No. Luckily, I'm as I announced on Twitter, I'm not going to be regularly writing. This is the first year in like 9 years that I'm not going to be regularly writing, but I will be posting stuff on Twitter. If I do write something, it'll go on Infernal Access in all likelihood, which is Todd Cordell's blog. So if I do something long form, I guess that's where you can check me out.
There you go. CJT Devil. Follow him on Twitter. Get him a couple more followers. Make sure you get that analytical advice. CJ, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
That is CJ Turtoro, analytics expert covering the Devils. I like him already.
Yeah, I yelled at our guest because I thought he kept the mute button on. You're muting everybody today.
It was the mix minus issue. It's my fault. I minused him out, and wasn't. But he was unmuted though.
Yeah, it's fine. No, he was good. I mean, he's somebody I've had circled for a while. You just, you can only get so many people working for the competition on the podcast, Sam. So eventually, I got to get my guys on. That's something we got to work on. I got to figure out how I'm going to get my guys involved in the podcast. I haven't even thought about it, man. But the season's coming up quick. He made a lot of good points, though. Love the point he made about Dougie Hamilton. Made me feel a lot better about Damon Severson because I was pretty worried about him. Not gonna lie to you, I thought there was some issues there with
You know what I like about him?
Just with the lack of minutes. What's that?
This is what I liked about him. He looks at the numbers, and he does the one thing right. He makes a judgment call if the numbers aren't really what he's seeing.
Yeah,
he's open to that. It's not the numbers. No way or the highway kind of thing. And I really appreciate that he actually takes the time to like, well, the analytics, for example, Dawson Mercer.
Yeah.
Now again, I'm not going to discredit analytics completely, but it's nice to, he's one of the few that would say, okay, this doesn't really match what I'm seeing, and then investigate it. I think that was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, one of the earliest analytics was shooting percentage that we started to really kind of like dive into. It was like the original on base percentage. It's like we're like, let's look at the shooting percentage, let's see what's going on here, and we could kind of predict that year over year it's not really sustainable. But Alex Ovechkin out here shooting 14% every year. There are always going to be outliers, and you have to try to use your research and use your thought process and your experience to know when those outliers exist. You know that Alex Ovechkin is a Hall of Fame shooter, a scorer unlike anything we've ever seen. So you don't have to always predict drops in goals just because he's shooting 14 to 15 to 16% every year, because he's going to do it every year. It's just what he does. He's very efficient with his shot. I don't know if that's true that he has that number, but I'm just making an example.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love the people who look at analytics and kind of look beyond. It's interesting, Sam, because I'm trying to think of who we had on a couple. Can you remember who we had on who was talking about Jack Hughes' defense? Was that you or was that one of our guests?
It was probably both.
So Jay Fresh, who's somebody we've had on the podcast before, put out a card on Jack Hughes that says his defense is gonna plummet this year. And we're all trying to figure out why. Why? How is he going to be so much worse than he's been in the past 2 years? I'm predicting I'm analyzing that maybe that means they think that there's going to be a drop in takeaways, because takeaways are a very unsustainable stat. Takeaways don't transfer year over year. Difference is they have for Jack Hughes. 2 years in a row, Jack Hughes has been one of the best players in the world at stealing the puck from other players. So when I've seen it 2 years in a row, I've seen it his breakout year last year, and I believe, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, he led the league in takeaways the year before.
I believe, yeah, I think he was averaging at a ridiculous 3 or 4 per game. Last year, injury riddled season, 1 per game. But still, I mean, that's 82 takeaways. I think was it Connor McDavid had 90 something. I don't remember.
He wasn't a league leader, but he was still up there. I think he was in the top.
He was the top.
Looking at a per game basis. So that, again, I can look at that and be like, well, if that's the stat you're going off of, I can predict that will happen again, and I can overlook that analytics. Maybe it's something else. Maybe they think he's not going to be playing that much in the defensive zone. Maybe they think that because he's going to spend so much time in the offensive zone, a lot of the defense that he's going to have to deal with is going to be on breakaways or on running back the other way or being tired at the end of shifts. There's a lot of factors that could go into this. I don't know. We don't have him on, so I can't ask him. But you know what I mean? Those are the types of things that you have to look past.
You want my opinion? I think Jack Hughes, his takeaway percentage or takeaways, not percentage, totals are going to be really, I think the big variable is if the Devils are playing with the lead and Jack Hughes is out there, teams get desperate through the neutral zone, and Jack Hughes uses his skill and speed to poke that puck away and bring it back on the transition. So, I don't know where Jay Fresh is getting that from. It's so hard to predict. Maybe 2 years in a row he's been good, and okay, maybe he's not going to do well this year. Is that the reason? I don't know. But I just think that from a game standpoint, look, John Marino is on the team now. The defense is seasoned a little bit from last season. Dougie Hamilton is coming back from that jaw injury, hopefully unrestricted, meaning he's not going to, he's over it to an extent. Damon Severson on a contract year, Ryan Graves on a contract year. I expect that defense to play much better than last season and be more consistent. And plus, you've got the new coaches, because I think that's one thing that's overlooked is Lindy Ruff is building the Lindy Ruff tree right now. When he first came to the Devils, It was like, okay, you're keeping Naz, and there's nothing against Nasruddin. Maybe it wasn't his guy, and then you bring in Mark Recchi. That didn't work out. So Sergey Breland is going to make him work. The other guy, Ryan
in
McGill,
that eye of the sky position, he's going to do so much. He's going to be such an asset in that position specifically. Like what a like. Listen, here's the thing, Sam. We fought about Lindy Ruff a lot, right? We were on polar opposites on what to do with Lindy Ruff. He has a dream on his bench right now. The four coaches behind him. I don't know about Kowalski or is that the goalie coach? Am I think of the wrong guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Melanson is gone, right?
Melanson's gone, which I didn't like. Yeah. I didn't like losing Melanson, but I think it's Kowalski. That's the one, like, because just of how bad the goalie situation was. But that was a myriad of factors. This year, Burnett, you got the guy from the Golden Knights, you got Breland to add to the guys you already had, and then you got Lindy Ruff, who, say what you want to about Lindy Ruff. I didn't want him here again this year. I will admit that. Free flowing, I was very obvious about what I wanted. But if you're going to keep him here, you got a guy who was a freaking Jack Adams winner or Jack Adams nominee last year. And he's on the bench with Lindy Ruff. He's learning from Lindy Ruff. And Lindy Ruff's getting older. You know, he's can only do this for so long. That travels. That gets to you, man. And I think that these kids are going to learn a lot. And you got veterans in the locker room now. You got a guy in Tatar or a guy in Palat who's going to come in and bring a championship pedigree. You got a guy in Marino. Same thing. He was on one of those Penguins championship teams, right?
Oh, I have to look. That's a good question. Maybe in his rookie year?
I think when he was younger. I'd have to look. Yeah, you check that out, but
I'll check that out. You keep on going. Don't let me interrupt you.
Anyway, you have veteran presences that are still young. You know, these aren't super old. Like, you're not bringing in Brent Seabrook at 37 years old. You're not bringing in Nicholas Hjalmarsson. You know, you're not bringing in these crazy old people or like Phil Kessel or anything like that. Like, you're not bringing these guys with not a lot left. You're bringing in veteran presence with championship pedigrees who are young. We're relatively young. Palat's not young, but he's relatively young. And you got them signed for a long time. They're buying into the system. They're buying into what the Devils are selling, and they're very excited to be here. So, you know, knowing that this locker room, he wasn't on it?
He was on the minor leagues.
Okay. My fault.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was in an organization that comes in every year and wants to win the championship. It's the mindset of it. It's that championship mindset, and the Penguins still have that. That's why they signed Malkin and Letang and all these players this year, and Rust. I wanted Rust. I really did want Rust, but that's neither here nor there. We don't have to rehash that. I think that
Carl says Rogalski is the goalie coach.
Rogalski. Sorry, I got my letters mixed up.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't think so, but yeah, I think and Chris Taylor is still there from last year, according to Kyle.
Yeah, he's
YouTube Live. This is why we have YouTube Live and Facebook Live. You know why? Because you know what? We have a lifeline to ask questions.
Here's the thing, Sam. I'm gonna be honest with the listeners. I haven't written a lot. I haven't done a lot beyond this podcast. I told Sam I'm still in temporary housing. You kind of see my situation right here. You know, I'm in my friend's closet doing this podcast, and it's kind of, you know, where I'm moving. I'm driving all over God's creation. I will get better once the season starts. I will be the same guy on top of it. I do drive-bys on Twitter. I'll go on Twitter like 10 minutes a day, and I'll just send a couple tweets and then be gone. So I will be more present. I will be on top of all these names. I will be on top of all the players and kind of the research of it. So I apologize, Sam, but I'll be honest. I just need to buy a dang house. It's hard out here. That is my life right now. Is womp womp womp. I have a lot going for me. I'm going to be honest. I have a lot good going for me. It's just a lot.
You absolutely do. You absolutely do. And you know what? Look, it's September 7th, 2022. The season hasn't started yet. Prospect Challenge hasn't started yet.
Oh!
Training camp hasn't started yet.
We got to wish you, Sam, a happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Everybody in the comments.
A few days.
Wish Sam a happy birthday.
That was a few days ago.
Yeah,
I'm a miles wood.
Yeah, I'd be a complete asshole if I didn't do it at the top. It was your birthday today.
Can't say that word on air. Now I have
You're
to.
a podcast.
I know, I'm kidding
Call
around.
the FCC.
You know what? Speaking of that word, I was thinking if I was
Comedy Central.
If I had my own analytics, there would be a stat called AF. You know what that stands for?
All fudges.
A-hole factor. Some guys that get under your skin. I would totally do that. That's the only analytics I would support. Like Mason Geertsen in the lineup. You know, what is the AF on Mason?
All I know is Ty Domi broke the scale.
Yeah. Or even Sean Avery. Sean Avery was off the charts because, he was over the line. Same with Ty Domi. What he did to Niedermeyer years ago, that was just uncalled for. Hey, thank you for the happy belated birthdays, Kyle, John, Andy A, The Trap. Also, there's another birthday coming up in mid-October. The Let's Go Devils podcast, year 5. Woo! 5 years old. 5 years old, going into season 6. Season 6 starting in a couple weeks. And we're going to unveil the 5-year anniversary logo. Not this Sunday, but the Sunday after on the 18th on the Let's Go Devils podcast Sunday edition, season 6. We will unveil the new logo. You'll see it all season long. Number 5.
5 years. How many years have I been on this? What is this, season?
You know what? We're still in season 5. We're going into season 6. You were season 2, episode 1. Remember how we got you as a guest, and then what followed was we had the
Arda.
one from The Bachelor, Arda,
yeah,
and the one from what's it, Lacey? Lacey Mark from The Bachelor, big Devils fan. So, and then we had the wives tuning in because we had somebody on their favorite show, Beer Baron's wife, was all into that. And then Steve Cangelosi comes on, and then Doc Emmerich comes on, and then you're like, whoa.
I was like, what did I do? How did I get on this?
That's just started a whole new level. And we'll try to get the new guy, the play-by-play guy, on very soon. Is it Bill Spalding? That's his name, right? Yeah.
Listen, I've already been in them DMs. Don't you worry. I've been in them DMs. We'll work something out.
Yeah, nobody ever responds to me, Nick, but that's okay. I have a reputation.
I got the following, my man. I got the following.
Yeah.
People see that Pucks and Pitchforks logo and they melt like butter.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about butter, so I think we're at the end of the podcast. I think we've hit our wall.
The Trap is asking. Else? Well, I'm going to answer the Trap. Any insight on the PA announcer? Yes. They are interviewing professional PA announcers as we speak, the New Jersey Devils. That's what I'm getting through my sources. And you better support whoever this PA announcer. I don't want any shenanigans. You just got to support the team at this point. No negativity.
Maybe-
Nothing.
Let's
What?
hope he's good.
He or she? I don't know.
Let's hope they are good.
Yeah. Otherwise, But you know what? Scotty and I are gonna be doing Devils After Dark, and I'm gonna be, since we don't have the rights to the calls with Matt and Chico or Bill Spalding and Dano, that I'll be making up calls again.
There you go.
Yeah, our homemade calls.
You can't beat it.
Yeah.
All right, Sam. Well, that's that.
What are you plugging?
Right now on Pucks and Pitchforks, I did a little Taylor Hall, Aaron Judge comparison. Did that hurt you a little bit when you pulled it up at the beginning of the podcast? You saw a big picture of Aaron Judge there?
No, because he's going to be a New York Met next year.
All right.
Yankees lowballed him by
you
$150
can't even say we don't deserve that, though. You got to sign the guy. What the heck are you doing?
Actually, when I read that quickly, I thought it said Aaron Judge gives us Taylor Ham vibes. So I'm like, what the heck is that? And then, because you're reading on a small screen, so.
And I wouldn't have written that because Taylor Ham doesn't exist. But anyway. So I'll write something. This week, you will have something on Tatar. You will have something on Severson. I am still working on the top 50 Devils of all time. This thing is a beast, but it's going to be worth it once it comes out. Sam, this is going to be as big as a freaking book by the time I'm done with it. It's insane. I'm annoyed. Probably not that big, but it's going to be huge. It's going to be like what? It's going to be at least 15,000 words.
Wow.
So it's going to be for your reading pleasure. It's worth the wait. It's going to take a while.
Maybe I'll write something. I was thinking of writing something.
You should do that. It's been a while.
I'm going to write something. Something about, the Devils hired a motivational coach or motivational executive. And
sure.
I'm going to dive into the pressures of a contract year.
There you go. We got a lot
Getting
of
that next big
Severson,
fat contract.
You got Johnson. You got Tatar. There's Bratt.
Graves. Yeah.
Graves.
Well,
yeah, there's a lot of
but Bratt is still restricted, so it's
he's still
almost
a contract here. Still works with the psychology.
Yeah. It's kind of like, okay, they lowballed me, so like an Aaron Judge type thing. All right, I'll just break records. What's that?
Scorched earth, love it.
Yeah.
But that's what's coming on Pucks and Pitchforks. What do you got coming up?
Sorry, I'm just being distracted. The product is pork roll, and the company is Taylor Ham. No. It was a 1906 crony ruling by the FDA. Somebody got paid off. It was originally called Taylor Ham, and they changed it because just some crony person in the federal government decided, we're not going to worry about all this medical stuff, quack stuff that's being sold. We're going to go after the Taylor Ham people. Anyway, that's another podcast for another day. I'm going to be doing the Woo Report. Also, Let's Go Devils Podcast Sunday edition. Back live this Sunday as we're ramping it up. Next week is going to be, we got the Prospect Challenge. I know Chico is going to be up there, I believe, with Matt Lachlan. I'm going to find out what's going on there. Plus training.
Sam, I got a good guest coming on soon. Not next week, but in a couple weeks.
Are you going to tell me, or
I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you on air. I got a good guest though.
Why not? Why don't you tell me?
Because you know how these things work. You confirm the week of, and then that's when you promote.
Well, you know what?
Anything could happen.
You know what? As a podcaster, your AF score just went higher.
It's high. My AF score's high. My AF score's high.
It's off the
people
chart.
that are around me.
Sean Avery off the charts right now. All right.
It's not Sean Avery, but it's maybe it's Scott Stevens. Maybe it's a little maybe it's young Ken Danico.
Oh yeah. Remember him? Back in the 80s.
Ken Danico.
When he had hair?
That's all I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
It's always weird to see him with hair.
well, thank you very much for tuning in, everybody, on YouTube Live and Facebook Live, or reading the comments. Keep it here. We've got a special Season 6 coming up very soon. Game Day Live. Devils After Dark is going to be back. Woo Report is already back. State of the Fan Address has always been here. And the Let's Get Olds podcast, Sunday edition. Don't you worry about that. Thank you. Till next time, let's go Devil.